Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss few more topics of this chapter. The most important and the first one is gene therapy. What this gene therapy means? It is a correction therapy. It is a technique in which correction is done in genes. Obviously, correction is done in defective genes. If there is a problem in any gene, that gene is not going to code into a functional protein. So, for that this gene therapy is going to be done. So, that is a correction in gene. A correction in gene. The gene should be a defective gene in which correction should be done. Now, what is the base of this gene therapy? If we talk about the theoretical base, that simply this gene therapy means if an individual is having a defective gene, that simply means either a defective protein is going to form or simply no protein is going to be formed. What the scientists or researchers try to do, they introduce a functional gene into the body of the individual so that that functional gene is going to perform the function, protein synthesis will be there and normal body functions will be acquired. This is simply the basis of this gene therapy. Now, this gene therapy that was first done in 1990 with a 4-year-old girl who was having a defective gene, adenosine deaminase. Because of this defective gene adenosine deaminase, the immune system is not going to function. Because this adenosine deaminase is very much important for the functioning of immune system. So, B cells, T cells, they are going to form, they are going to fight against the different infections or pathogens. So, that is not going to happen if this adenosine ADA is non-functional. So, this gene therapy was done with this girl and a functional copy of this adenosine deaminase is introduced into the body of this girl. Now, other than this, if we talk about this gene therapy, we leave this gene therapy, the different methods that are used for such type of treatments are bone marrow transplantation. This is one technique that can be used. Or there is enzyme replacement therapy. Means each time the individual is going to be provided enzymes with the injection and the function will be performed. So, these are going to be the temporary methods of treatment. But if we are introducing a functional gene, a fully functional gene, that is going to be a permanent cure. Now, let us talk about the steps that are involved in gene therapy. Say I am taking the same example, there is a defective adenosine deaminase gene in which an immune system of an individual is not functioning properly. So, what are the steps that can be done in such case? We are going to extract out the lymphocytes from the body of the patients. So, there will be extraction of lymphocytes from patient. Now, these lymphocytes are grown on a culture medium and they are going to be co-cultivated with functional copy of adenosine deaminase. So, co-cultivation with functional ADA cDNA with the help of a retroviral vector. So, let us understand this point. Basically what happens, retrovirus we know it is a RNA containing virus that is having RNA as its genetic material. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to say this is a retrovirus that is having its genetic material. We are going to modify its genetic material. We are going to say this is the genetic material of virus. We are going to reduce or remove some of the sequences from this viral genetic material, so that now this virus is not able to reproduce inside the human cells. So some of the parts of this viral genome is going to be deleted out, and in between the functional copy of the gene is introduced. They say this is a ADA gene, that is the functional copy. Now this is acting as a vector, a recombinant DNA is going to be formed. One more important thing is that RNA is present as a genetic material. That means this RNA is going to form a complementary DNA with the help of reverse transcriptase. We have talked about this in central dogma, that these retroviruses are having reverse transcriptase, with the help of which they are going to form a DNA on the RNA template, and the DNA that is going to be formed on the RNA template, that is known as complementary DNA or cDNA. So a cDNA is going to be formed, and these retroviruses, they are going to incorporate this cDNA into lymphocytes. So this cDNA here, it is going to be incorporated into lymphocytes. So now these lymphocytes, they are going to have the functional copy of this adenosine deaminase. So when these lymphocytes, now these transformed lymphocytes, genetically modified lymphocytes, they are going to be again introduced into patient, say introduced into bone marrow of patient, and if functional copy is present, then they are going to be responsible for the functioning of immune system. The immune system are going to function. But one more thing is there, that these lymphocytes, they are having short lifespan. So these genetically modified lymphocytes, they are going to be introduced into the patient's body at specific intervals, because lifespan is not very big. So other permanent thing that can be done is that the cells, the stem cells can be taken from embryo, and then this gene therapy will be introduced into the embryo. Now that is a completely permanent cure, and the individual is going to survive throughout the lifetime for the normal immune system. But that is having many of the ethical issues and lots of problems are there. So this is the common method that is done by using retroviral vectors. Now other than this is an example of SCID, that is in which this adenosine deaminase is non-functional, immune system is not working. There are other lots of genetic disorders, like we are having color blindness, sickle cell anemia is there, even some inborn disease of metabolism like phenylketonuria is there. So all these are, the researchers are trying to treat these conditions with the help of gene therapy. But theoretically it is more easier to explain these processes. Practically these processes are going to be very much complex, and maybe in the coming time gene therapy is going to be a big achievement to treat such type of diseases. Now this was one example. We can explain one more example also. Like if we talk about cancer, then cancer can be caused because of the inactivation of tumor suppressor genes. In our genome, there are lots of tumor suppressor genes that are present, which are responsible for the suppression of tumors. If these genes are going to be inactivated, then they are responsible for the formation of cancer. Suppressor genes. What we can do Like for example, if I take example P53, that is a tumor suppressor gene. So if P53 is going to be inactivated, then chances of cancer are going to be there. Now if we are going to provide a functional copy of this tumor suppressor gene with the help of gene therapy, then cancer development can be reduced. Again, with the help of a retrovirus, we can introduce the functional copy of tumor suppressor gene into a retrovirus that is going to incorporate into human genome, and cancer can be suppressed. So this is how gene therapy can provide a functional copy of gene which can prevent lots of genetic disorders, or maybe in coming time this will be the important technology that will be responsible for the treatment of lots of genetic disorders. Another application of this biotechnology is molecular diagnosis. There are loads of biotechnological techniques which are used for molecular diagnosis. Simply means which are used for the early detection of various diseases. If we use our conventional methods for the diagnosis of a disease, that simply diagnosis of a disease occurs after the appearance of symptoms of that particular disease. And when symptoms are going to occur, symptoms are going to occur when the number of pathogens are going to be increased in our body. So without symptoms, appearance of symptoms, diagnosis cannot be done in conventional methods. So at that time severity of disease is going to be high. But in molecular diagnosis we can detect if very small number of pathogens are entering, there are no symptoms of the disease, still we can detect them with the help of different techniques. Like recombinant DNA technology can be used. PCR, we talked about PCR. If there is HIV infection, initial stage of HIV infection, very less number of HIV virus are present in the body, still we can amplify their nucleic acid, amplify their genetic material, and it can easily be detected with the help of this PCR. Or we can also use ELISA, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, that is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. That is also used in the detection of lots of antigens, or you can say pathogens that are responsible for disease. What is the base of this ELISA? In this ELISA we are going to see a antigen antibody binding. So we simply, one thing is there, when an antigen enters in our body starts producing antibodies against that particular antigen. So in ELISA we basically detect the antibodies that are present for a specific antigen. So there is detection of antibodies which confirms that this particular antigen is present in our body, and because of that antibodies are going to be produced. So this is how these techniques are involved in early detection of various deadly diseases. Like cancer is there is detection of cancer. If mutation in gene is there, if any of the gene is mutated, that is responsible for cancer development. So this mutated gene can be identified with the help of biotechnological techniques, like we are using probes for the detection of mutated genes. And what these probes are? Probes are used for the detection of mutated genes. They are either single stranded DNA or RNA. So these are small stretch of single stranded DNA or RNA, and they are having a radioactive labeling. A radioactive element is attached with this probe. Radioactive labeling is just responsible for the detection. Now these probes, they are having complementary sequence for functional copy of gene. So if gene is normal, there is no mutation in gene, then this probe is going to bind with that particular gene because that is having the complementary sequence for this gene, and we can easily detect the binding of probe with this gene with the help of autoradiography. But if gene is mutated, if this gene is going to be mutated, then this probe is not going to be able to bind with the mutated gene because now the sequence has changed. So complementarity is not there. So binding is not there, and if binding is not there, then we cannot see this gene in autoradiography. So this is how we can easily differentiate between the normal gene and between the mutated gene. So there is detection of, you can say, any of the mutated genes, sickle cell anemia or HIV virus is there, mutation in any of the cancer causing genes. These can be easily diagnosed with the help of molecular diagnosis. That is more convenient as compared to the conventional methods, and early detection is there. And one thing we simply know, if early detection of the disease is there, then treatment is going to be started at early phase and cure is there. When a disease is diagnosed as severe level, the chances of an individual to get cured from that disease is going to be decreased. So this is how this techniques, these biological applications techniques, they are used in molecular detection. Now let's talk about transgenic animals. We have seen some of the examples of transgenic animals, like sheep were there, goats were there, mice were there, pigs were there. So let's see that how these transgenic animals, they are contributing to the benefits of humans. So let's talk about transgenic animals. We know that these are going to be the genetically modified animals in which DNA manipulation has been done. Their DNA has been manipulated and humans are using them for their advantage. The first thing is they are using for normal physiology and development. That means we are using these transgenic animals to understand the functioning of different genes, how different genes are going to be regulated. When we are going to introduce a gene from another species to some another species, then what are the effects that are going to happen, how these genes, their functioning is responsible for the normal growth of an organism. So this is how these organisms are used to study the functions of different type of genes and regulation of these particular genes. Now the second, these are used as a study of diseases. They are basically used as a model for different type of diseases, like which gene is contributing to which particular gene, what are the different defects that are coming in gene because of which the different type of diseases are caused. So there are lots of human diseases for which different transgenic animals are functioning as model, like you can say cancer is there, rheumatoid arthritis, we can say cystic fibrosis is there. So there are lots of diseases for which, to understand these particular diseases, we are using these transgenic animals as models. Then biological products, we are going to produce lots of biological products from these transgenic animals. We have introduced different genes in these transgenic animals and which are responsible for the formation of various products which are important for human welfare. Like some of the examples are, we are producing alpha-1 antitrypsin, which is responsible for the treatment of emphysema, that is a respiratory disorder. there are certain attempts that have been made to treat phenylketonuria, cystic fibrosis also. And first transgenic cow, the transgenic cow was made in 1997. The transgenic cow was Rossi, and this cow is responsible for production of milk that is containing higher protein level. It is enriched in protein. It is also going to have human lactalbumin, and as compared to normal cow, it is going to provide more proteins to the human babies. So that's how these are transgenic animals which are used for various biological products. Then vaccine safety simply means if we are designing or forming a vaccine, that vaccine cannot be directly used on human beings. First, that vaccine should be used on various animals, and then we will see what is the effect of that particular vaccine, and if trial is in clinical trial on these animals are going to be successful, then that vaccine is going to be applied on, we can say, human beings. So we are having transgenic mice on which successfully polio vaccine is tested. So there are lots of transgenic organisms on which we are going to test the vaccines. Chemical safety testing, there are lots of toxic materials, toxic chemicals are there, and their toxicity and effect on the body, that is also done on various transgenic organisms. Like we are going to, with the help of genetic engineering, we are going to make these animals more sensitive to the chemicals as compared to the non-genetic engineering organisms, and then these organisms, these genetically modified organisms, they are having more sensitivity for the chemicals, they are given that particular chemical, and the effect of the chemical is going to be observed. So this is how these transgenic animals, they are used for different human benefits, and humans are continuously exploiting them. Now the last topic which we are left with is ethical issues that are related with this genetically modified organisms, patent, biopatent and biopiracy. So let's understand these topics. What these ethical issues are? See, human beings are continuously performing genetic engineering, they are producing genetically modified organisms in laboratory also, plus later on these genetically modified organisms, they are introduced into the ecosystem. Now many of the times these genetically modified organisms, they are giving an unpredictable result in the ecosystem. There are lots of objections of introducing these genetically modified organisms in the ecosystem. So all these things that are related with the production of genetically modified organisms, they should be done in a regulated manner. Means there should be an authority that is going to check on these productions of genetically modified organisms, what the researchers are doing. So this is raising a ethical issue that continuous manipulation in organisms is disturbing the ecosystem. The results are going to be different by introducing these genetically modified organisms. So to deal with such type of ethical issues, to regulate this research on genetically modified organisms, Indian government has made a authority, has provided authority, they have made a organization that is checking, or that is completely taking care of everything that is related with genetically modified organisms. They are dealing, or they are going to take the decisions whether this research will take place or not, whether it is following all the rules and regulations, or this genetically modified organism should it get introduced into the ecosystem or not. So all these decisions are taken by one single organization, and that is Genetic Engineering Approval Committee. So this is going to have the authority to deal with all the aspects of genetically modified organisms. All the decisions should be taken by this Genetic Engineering Approval Committee regarding the genetically modified organisms. So lots of organisms, like working on human beings is a completely ethical issue. So lots of objections are there while these genetically modified organisms are introduced into the ecosystem. Now second important aspect is biopatent. Biopatent simply means that the individual who is responsible for the invention of a technique, that individual is given a authority for specific time period for the production, selling, manufacturing of that particular thing. And this is going to have lots of objections. Like simple example is, if we talk about rice, then India is going to have 2 lakh varieties of rice, and the most common one is basmati rice, and there are almost 27 varieties of basmati rice, and it is known for its aroma and flavor. That is a Indian variety. But what America did, they took patent, and he said that they have invented this particular variety of rice, and it was simply that basmati rice, it was hybridized with a short sized variety, a dwarf variety. It was hybridized with the dwarf variety, and new variety of basmati rice was they produced, and they take patent of that particular variety. So this is how there is biopiracy, in which the resources that are present in countries, in different countries, like most of the resources are going to be present in developing countries and underdeveloped countries. So the developed countries are going to use the resources and traditional information of the developing and underdeveloped countries, and they are going to use them for their economic purposes. They are going to manipulate them, and they are going to, various multinational companies, they are going to exploit the natural resources of these developing and underdeveloped countries. So that is biopiracy. So there are lots of rules that has been set in India also, and different countries also, in which all these issues are taken care of. So that's all about this chapter. We are completed with this unit. Next time we are going to start with our next unit.